Welcome to year 2 of A Mick, a Mook, and a Mike.
Hosted by 4-time Emmy-nominated producer
Frank Pace and retired New York City firefighter, 9/11 first responder, and Vietnam vet, Billy O'Connor. Brought to you by We Can Coffee Company, manufacturer of freshly roasted premium coffee blends delivered directly to your door.
This week's guests played for the Dodgers, the Braves, and the Indians. Collected 2,390 hits. Brett Butler.
Oh, my brother.
Brother Frank,
I wish we could share what we were just talking about.
we really can't put that on the air.
We really
it's a hell of a story.
It's a hell of a story.
But I was young, Frank. I was only 20. I remember coming back from the encounter, though. I tell you the truth. I took the public bus, and the woman next to me on the public bus kept going, looking at me and going, what this dirty look like? Because I smelt the whole side of my face.
No. You're getting too deep into
too
it.
graphic.
You're getting too deep.
We're only talking about food, Frank.
Yeah. Oh boy!
Save me.
Our guest today is baseball all-star Brett Butler.
Wow.
He was a terrific baseball player, a terrific cancer survivor, and he'll be a terrific guest. 3 T's.
Yeah, he will. Boy, he played for a lot of teams and terrific leadoff hitter.
And by the way, every one of those teams, I think, won a pennant when he played on them. So that says something.
Another like the glue, like Flynn.
Well, Flynn only played with one that won, Cincinnati.
But I mean, Brett Butler, you could actually say he was the glue. I mean, and a great leadoff hitter.
Yep.
I remember while I was watching Ken Burns' documentary about baseball, one of the great lines, somebody said, "How do you pitch to Henry Allen?" He asked the pitcher. And the guy says, well, what I do is I throw my best stuff, and then I go back up third base.
So let's talk about John Gruden for an instant.
Yeah.
You know how many guys there are like that in all leagues? Not just the NFL, but every league. I mean, Derek, our third man in the booth, he'll tell you because he was a black growing up in Mississippi. But
He said a black, ladies and gentlemen.
An African American.
We're cutting that out.
No,
you can't say a black.
I said it.
A black person, possibly.
A black yes, a black person.
You was a black.
Yeah, well, you just
fucking A, man.
Leave that in just to show how ignorant I am. Because
okay, all right. I'm just trying to keep your. You work for Warner Brothers.
Well, I consider myself woke. But that's an indication of how unwoke I really am.
But isn't that the accepted term now? Would you say a black person? I mean, isn't that the accepted term?
That's not what he said. He said a
I'm
black.
A black.
Yeah, no.
That would be like me saying a white.
Yeah,
which nobody says.
Well, that just shows you how ignorant I am.
Yeah, I don't.
And I think I'm unignorant, and then I say a stupid thing like that. It's like Reggie Jackson. Mickey Rivers said to Reggie Jackson, no wonder you're screwed up. Your name is Reginald Martinez Jackson. You got a white man's first name, a Spanish man's second name, and a black man's third name. But you know
what? When I was growing up, and again, obviously, if you're growing up in the 50s, chances are you're prejudiced.
Also, why did I even have to say black?
Exactly.
Or why did I even have to say black man? I said he was a man growing up in the South, which, when I think about it, of course, it's a stupid thing for me to say. But,
But yeah. But he's not Italian, like.
He could be. He's lighter than a lot of Italians.
Some of my best friends are Italian. There's Frank Pace, there's Billy Martino, Richie Arzo, there's Derek Harris. My best friends are Italian. I can't be prejudiced.
He could, like Franco Harris is Italian. As Italian and he's black.
Do you ever notice every time an Italian guy gives you advice, he goes like this at the end of it, but what do I know? You know what? Every Italian guy goes, but what do I know? This way, if you take the advice and it ruins your entire freaking life, at least they bailed out. But what do I know?
It's like, with all due respect. Every
line.
time Woody Allen says, with all due respect,
Here it
you
comes.
know something bad is going to follow.
That's my favorite line of all. And you can say anything to an Italian guy as long as you preface it with all due respect. You say, with all due respect, your sister, she's a bit of a whore. With all due respect.
We got to move that.
A bit of a whore. Not a whore, but a bit of a whore. Oh, yeah, I love that line. That's a get out of jail free card. That's a terrific line. Yeah. And some guys, the real volatile Italian guys, you got to preface every line with that.
With all due respect.
Oh, yeah.
because everything's about respect with Italian guys. By the way, I don't know whether we talked about this yet. We might have. Did you see The Sons of Newark?
Yeah, I thought
Oh, it was awful.
Terrible.
It was awful.
Oh, was it bad?
Oh,
Yes,
it was awful.
and
Oh man,
you do
That's too
have
bad.
to see the entire series to know what the hell Christopher Moltisanti's voiceover is all about.
Oh,
Yeah, but I mean, the thing that gets me is David Chase is obviously a genius, right?
Well.
No,
He was a genius with one thing. Sopranos.
And here we go.
He was very good with a lot of stuff. He was only a genius with Sopranos.
but correct me if I'm wrong. This is your racket. This is your business. You know this business. I don't. I'm looking as a guy who just wants to be entertained. But when he gave the idea to do this Sons of Newark, this is right out of the page of The Godfather. I mean, when The Godfather was first released with Brando, when they said they were going to make Godfather 2 and they were going to go back to his youth, how he became the Godfather, I thought it was going to be shit, but it was a great movie. You know,
Right.
it turned out to be a great movie.
Right.
So this is basically the same thing. He says, I can make a lot of money by showing him how James Gandolfino got to be
Yeah.
who he was.
Yeah.
And it was complete shit.
Yeah. Well, that means he's not a genius anymore.
Yeah, but-
No, that's exactly what it means. It means it's not a genius anymore. He was, with all due respect, with all due respect, David, you're far more of a genius than I'll ever conceive of being. So let's get that right on the table. But he sold out for the money.
yeah, it was definitely take the money and run.
So,
yeah, and
yeah, I got a question.
casting James Gandolfino's son as the son would have been inspired if he was really, really, really good. But I didn't find
He wasn't bad.
Yeah, he was.
He wasn't. He was mediocre.
He was mediocre
Yes.
at best.
Yes.
He was mediocre at best. And there's a lot more. There's a lot better trained actors that could have done that part.
Without a doubt.
And the guy that played Silvio with the hair.
That was ridiculous. They could have got a puppet to do that. I mean, really, they could have brought out a wooden fucking puppet and do that. It was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous.
ridiculous.
It was
but,
ridiculous.
But like you said,
And by the way,
Gandolfino's kid.
by the way, don't think you're going to get a buy, John Gruden. We're going to still get you yet. So
Yeah, I want to go back to John Gruden.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. But Gandolfino's kid, like you said,
Gandolfini, no?
Gandolfini, whatever. You know those kids. He said,
Uh,
hey.
my best friends but his kid, I mean, the nuances, he had a couple of his father's mannerisms and stuff. He was mediocre.
he had all of his father's genes. He should have some of his mannerisms.
Yes, he was mediocre. But again, I think that was a take the money and run deal, without a doubt. The
Well-
script was awful. The
Uh,
script was
Go
absolutely
ahead.
awful.
Sorry.
Okay,
Sorry, go ahead, Derek. Excuse me.
Well, the question I have is it possible that maybe his name is just on the series?
Absolutely impossible.
Really?
Absolutely no fucking way. His imprint is all over that.
Okay.
But it was a shit script, don't you think? And you know what? Even
I don't think he wrote the script. If
but he approved it.
he approved every word of it.
That's all him. I mean, he's the guy. You were telling me the executive producer is the conductor. He's the guy who puts it all together,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
But I mean, the fact that we could talk about Gandolfino, whatever the hell his name is, about the kids acting, shows you how bad all the rest of the acting was. And one of the guys in the show was a friend of mine. With the comic Uncle Joey.
Right.
He had a bit part that he got his head blown off in a minute. With Joey Coco.
Joey Coco Bots.
No, Joey Coco. What the hell's his last name?
Coco Melon.
Yeah, but he was, he's a comic. Coco
Let's
Melon.
keep going. Coco Nut.
Coco Nuts, Coco Melon.
My granddaughter watches Coco Melon all the time, so that's why I got Coco Melon. I got Coco Melon on my melon.
That's what we should have wrote. It's a children's book.
Of course.
Underpants. It was a good thing. You say
Yeah,
the word
that was a hit.
underpants, it's funny. There's a Captain Underpants, and the thing is selling millions.
When we did Girl Meets World, Ben Savage in Boy Meets World used to say underpants all the time. It was a huge joke.
Underpants.
Underpants. So when we did Girl Meets World, we tried to do the underpants joke again, and the Disney Channel said, we don't want that. Standards and Practice doesn't like underpants. It's crazy.
And that would be about the most benign way you could say underwear, right? Underpants. I mean, it's under your pants. What? It's not brain surgery. So you want to go back to Gruden?
Yeah, coming up, I'll just remind our audience that Brett Butler will be joining. Brett Butler, the baseball player, not the comedian, will be joining us in a couple of minutes.
So they don't have to listen to us two mooks for the whole show. We got somebody actually interesting coming on.
Yeah, we do, but we're on a roll, so keep going.
Well, you want to go back to Gruden? I tell you what, notwithstanding the racial aspect.
By the way, the person who thanks John Gruden the most is Urban Meyer, because he knocked Urban Meyer
off the hook.
He got off the hook
for the lap dance.
For the lap dance.
Yeah, I mean,
he's not off the hook with his wife, and he's not off the hook with his team, but he's not off the hook like John Gruden is off the hook. He's way off the hook now.
Well, he's off the hook. He's in London too this week.
Yeah.
So, he's off to London to play. Jacksonville's playing in London, but. For the misogynist aspect of it too, that's got to be a part of the game. I mean, that's the NFL all the way. Keep the women off the field, keep the women referees now, and all that stuff. They can't be happy about that. That's a men's club.
That's America.
Yeah, it's a men's club.
I mean, thank God for Leslie Visser. Leslie Visser, our guest maybe 2 months ago, broke that silver ceiling or glass ceiling, whatever you call it, glass ceiling. In sports broadcasting.
I got to tell you, not to disparage the FDNY, but when I was on the FDNY, when women first came on the job, the men didn't like it.
No kidding.
I mean, it was like...
No kidding.
No, yeah, especially, and who was the most upset? The old timers.
Of course.
You mean the ones who say, a black?
Well, he could have called you a guinea.
He could have.
Yeah, but, I mean, you know what Joe DiMaggio's nickname was? Dago.
Yeah.
That's what they called everybody in those days.
I love the one line about DiMaggio. He was so private that he led the league in room service. And by the way, our next guest, Tony O, is going to tell us a little bit about Marilyn Monroe, right? JFK, which is...
well, if you ask him, I'm not going to ask him.
Oh, I'm going to ask him.
Oh, fine.
I want to know about Marilyn Monroe.
Duck. In the words of Don Rickles, duck.
Oh, I want to know about Marilyn Monroe. That interests me. So, what do you think about Gruden? Do you think it's
I think he was dealing under the safety of anonymity, and he got caught. And as Bruce Allen got caught, the entire Redskins hierarchy got caught.
But wait a second now. The Redskins hierarchy got caught.
Yeah.
Now, didn't they spend $1.5 million investigating the Redskins?
Yeah.
And who got caught? Nobody's name came up.
Well, Bruce Allen's name came up now, and the owner is no longer the owner of the team. He transferred all assets to his wife.
It's not me. It's her.
No.
Since
the protection.
Since it came out, since they've been under investigation for 3 or 4 or 5 years, going back to misogynistic front office. So Dan Snyder, who is the owner, absolved himself from everything with the league by saying, I'm going to step aside and I'm going to transfer everything to my wife. So John Gruden got caught, and they were investigating 650,000 emails, and some, I don't want to say wise guy or some smart ass or some investigator found a couple of emails, and a dozen or so more emails to Bruce Allen, who was George Allen's son, who was at that time president of the Washington Redskins. And that's how it came up.
Don't we go back to the beginning of the league? Wasn't Jack Kent Cooke the most racist?
Yeah, but that all goes without saying.
Washington Redskins.
Yeah, that all goes without. Everything that happened in the past is better left in the past, but it comes out.
They were the last to hire a black.
Yes. Hey, you know what?
I'm just gonna let you guys know that we could easily throw hands in here.
I'm an artist. I don't know.
I'm an artist.
Yeah.
It's art. It's art.
He's talent now.
Yeah, exactly.
My fingers. I got the fingers. I can't mess with my fingers. It's like the piano,
Yeah. Well, that's enough of us.
Yes, I think we should definitely.
Before we go to Brett, we can talk about our sponsor, weekendcoffeecompany.com. Freshly roasted coffee beans direct to your door, and they deliver. What's that they do for?
They do for first responders and for military vets. Every 10 bags, they buy us a bag. So
I didn't know you were a Southpaw, Billy.
yeah, I'm turned into a Southpaw.
Southpaw because there's coffee mugs.
Their coffee's great, but they got to learn on what end to put the logo on.
Yeah, they're in the coffee business, not the coffee.
We got a logo on the head too. Maybe, who knows?
They're in the coffee business, not the coffee mug business.
They're
But I'll tell
definitely
you,
in the coffee
I'll tell you a
business.
quick story about the logo on the bottom. Howard Storm, our previous guest, he was managing a fighter. He managed a lot of fighters. He managed Tony the Tiger Baltazar, who challenged Jeff Chandler for the welterweight championship of the world. And Jay Thomas and I, my friend Jay Thomas and I met Howard through Jay when they were doing Mork and Mindy. Jay said, "Let's go see Howard's fighter." So Howard said, "I was pushing pony shoes at the time." So Howard says, "Can I get some boxing shoes for my fighter?" I said, "Sure, no problem." So we get to the fight, and we don't see Howard, and his fighter's supposed to be the first guy up, and we're on a second fight already. And what the hell's going on here? So we saw Howard, and I said, "Howard, what the hell's going on? Where's your fighter?" He said, "Oh, he got knocked out in the first round." I said, "Hell, we should have put the logo on the bottom of the shoes."
I knew you were going there. You're going to put the logo on the bottom of his canvas back.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
First round, out.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yep. All right, let's get Brett Butler.
All right.
I would like to request a full story of what happened to Pony in a future episode.
Yes, and I'm going to change my glasses now, so when I come back, you'll see me with a different set of glasses.
And are they going to have the Pony logo?
No, actually, they're going to be these glasses because I can't read and take them off. So, well, I'll just do it right now.
Yeah, why
And,
not?
well,
Like dealing with Clark Kent.
I'll
He has
do
to
it
tell
while
us up front. Don't recognize
Wait,
it.
exactly. Exactly. Okay, I'm going to do it right now. You can get Brett.
All right. You, Frank.
Okay, so I've got my glasses on, my new glasses on. Let's bring on Brett Butler. Hey, Brett, how are you?
Frank, I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for asking.
That's my partner, Billy O'Connor, and my third partner, Derek.
Hello, hello.
Derek
Pleasure
Harris.
to know
Hello.
you, Brett. Pleasure to know you. Thanks for coming on the show, pal. Really appreciate it.
So,
Sure.
Brett, this is like the National League Brett Butler series. First, we had the Giants, the Dodgers. Now we got the Braves, Dodgers. What's going on here?
Well, you couldn't get a better rivalry than what you have going on now. Maybe the Yankees, maybe Boston, but I lived it. Both sides of it. Know how it feels. We can talk stories all day long about how each side feels about each other, but man, it's a classic series.
So why don't you tell me one of those stories? Tell me one of those stories from the Giant perspective. Tell me one of those stories from the Dodgers perspectives. And then tell me one of those stories from the Braves perspective about the rivalry.
Wow.
Wow. Well, that we can be here for an hour and a half if you want to
So
talk
be
about
it.
that.
So
Now, let's
be
us
it.
off the hook for the next 20 minutes.
Well, I guess first we could probably start with the Giant Dodger. I always thought, especially back when I was playing with the Giants, that the Dodgers had won so much, and you got 51, and you got the home run and all that with the Giants. So, initially I thought there was a little bit of jealousy there. So I thought that the rivalry was more critical from the Giants side than the Dodgers side. Okay, and so then when I went to San Francisco, I was born in LA. My uncle was bat boy for the Dodgers when he was a kid, so he had a picture of him in his Dodger uniform, and he had photographs with Koufax and Drysdale and all those guys. And so I was like, oh man, to be a Dodger would be nice, but my favorite player growing up was Willie Mays. So, we lived in San Francisco up in the Bay Area in a town called Fremont. So I would go and I would sit and watch Willie play, and I'm like, holy smokes. So when I got a chance to play with the Giants initially, and if I'm going to back up even more, so I remember being with the Braves, and I remember one time thinking, golly, I'd love to be able to play for the Dodgers or San Francisco. It didn't matter, but if I could, that'd be great. And I remember Tommy calling me over. I got traded from Atlanta to Cleveland.
Tommy Lasorda.
Yeah, Tommy Lasorda. I got traded from, I was in Atlanta 81, 82, 83. And so 83, towards the end of the year, we were playing the Dodgers. And Tommy calls me over and goes, "Hey, Brett, come on over here." And I walked over there and he goes, "Hey, I want you to do me a favor." I'm like, "Tommy Lasorda wants me to do him a favor?" And
He
I
wanted
said, "Yeah."
he wanted you to buy him lunch.
Well, you know what? That probably was true. That happened more than one or two times.
They say he used both sides of the toilet paper, right? He was a little frugal.
Yeah, that was it. But he called me over and he goes, "Hey, would you do me a favor?" I'm like, "Yeah. What do you want?" He goes, "Hey, send me a postcard from Cleveland to tell me how bad it really is."
Whoa.
Oh, dude, that's just not right.
Whoa.
That's not right.
That's cold.
Yeah, that was cold. I'm like, "Oh, that is so new." He laughed and waddled away like he did.
Wow.
But that was it. But when I went to San Francisco,
Hey, Brett, can you hold that microphone? You still rub it a little bit.
Okay.
All right, continue.
That better?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
All right, again, if it happens again, let me know. So when I went to San Francisco and I signed with the Giants in '88, going to Scottsdale for spring training and walking in, and who am I between in my first spring training with the Giants? It's Willie McCovey and Willie Mays.
Wow.
And I'm like, "Oh man, this is unbelievable. I can't believe it." So when the season started, I heard all the stories about how much you hate the Dodgers and all that. I'm kind of torn, but now, I'm sold out. I'm a Giant. And that's it. It's over. I'm all in. So I remember getting there, and every time we played the Dodgers, man, I wanted to beat their tail. I just wanted to beat them, and we went back and forth, and we had, a great club. And then, of course, in '89, we went to the World Series against Oakland and lost in the, battle by the bay and the earthquake. But, the rivalry was really always tough. And so then, because of collusion and all the stuff that went along with that, I was awarded New York free agency when I was with the Giants. Now, Al Rosen's our general manager, and Al was like a father figure to me. I just had great respect for Al and loved him like a father. And so when I was awarded New York free agent, my agent, Dick Moss, and him talked about, we got to work out a new deal and whatever may be the case. And I don't really know what went down there. I don't, because I'm in the winter meetings. And I get a phone call from Derek Hall, who's our traveling secretary, and he says, "Hey, Al's on the phone, and he wants to talk to you." And I remember covering up my phone. I'm like, "Hey, I'll have this done in 5 minutes." And so I get on the phone, and Al goes, "You know what? Money changes people." And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean, Al?" He goes, "Well, you want this, and we couldn't." I'm like, whoa. How much are you talking about? And we exchange figures. I'm like, "No, Al, you don't got to give me that. Just give me this." Now, Ricky was there, Ricky Henderson, and Reigns was there. And, I was kind of below those guys, but I'm like, "All right, I don't care. Just give me this." And all of a sudden there was silence. And I'm like, "Al?" And he goes, "Well, I just want you to know that we cannot tender you a contract. Thank you for being on the team." And he hung up. And I was crushed. I'm like, wow, what happened? Well, I found out about an hour later that he was fearful that I was not going to sign back with the club. So 2 hours earlier, he signed Willie McGee.
Oh,
Wow.
So I was crushed.
yeah.
There's a lot of people that don't know that story. But that's what happened. And again, later on, I remember, and we'll go through the season. So now I'm going to end up signing with the Dodgers.
Well,
let
me tell you a quick story parenthetically about Al Rosen. In 1986, when Rod Carew was let go by the Angels, he was colluded against, and he was the first victim of collusion. It came out. But Al Rosen called him, and he said, "Do you want to come to the Giants? We'll make you a part-time pinch hitter, and you'll play." And Rod just said at that time, it was May, and he said, I don't think so. I don't want to start all over in a new league. I'm 40 years old. It's not that important to me." But that's the kind of guy Al Rosen was in 1986.
Well, and again, he's always going to have great respect for me. Going forwards, I ended up signing with the Dodgers, and here's when we're talking about that rivalry, okay?
Right.
And again, now I'm torn. I'm a Giant. I'm sold out. Now I'm a Dodger. I understand how it is, okay? So I'm like, I wonder how the fans are going to respond to me when I come out on the field the first opening day. So I remember walking out and it's like, Butler, you suck! Butler, man. And I get hammered. I'm like, oh my God, they don't even know what happened. They don't know what happened. So after batting practice, we went in and I went into Tommy's office. And I said, hey, Tommy, I have to sever my relationship with the Giant fans. And Tommy, the character he was, he's like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I'm like, all right, we're going to go out there, opening day. They're going to introduce all the players, and then they're going to introduce the starting lineup. I said, I know they're going to introduce you first. You're going to waddle out there. And I said, when I come out as the first hitter, I'm going to put my hand out. I want you to grab my hand, and I want you to pull me in, and I want you to give me a big old bear hug. And oh my gosh, he played that to the hilt. And I want you to know, we almost got booed off the field.
Wow.
And I'll tell you how long that lasted. Is remember now, I was there every time I went in a Candlestick, I got booed. Remember when Candlestick, they were closing it down, they were moving it to the new ballpark,
Right.
And they invited everybody out, and Mays came through the center field fence. They picked up the plate, and they helicoptered it over to the new ballpark. When they introduced me then, I still got booed. That's how that works. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's crazy.
So when you thought that the Giants, that the hatred for the Dodgers would be more for the Giants because they were jealous of what the Dodgers had won, but the Dodgers had just as intense hatred for the Giants.
Well, you know what? I think the hatred was there, but me living it, it was more so like, we just won more and they're jealous, and that's kind of how they played it off. Now, I don't believe it's like that now. Why? Because of all the winning that they've done,
Yeah.
All right? And so now I think the rivalry is more probably equal, not so much jealousy, just we're going to pound each other and the best team's going to come out, and that's kind of how it worked. And, so then to finish the story, at the end of the season, we end up in San Francisco. And I get a tap on the shoulder. And again, as you talked about, Frank, how Al Rosen was, I get a tap on the shoulder and turn around, it's Al. And he goes, you know what? I was a good player. And he goes, and I'm a good general manager. But he said, you know what? A day doesn't go by where I didn't realize I let my ego get to the situation. And I know that if I would have talked to you, it would have turned out different. I'm sorry I did it that way.
Well, that's a great
That's
story.
classy. That's pretty classy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I hugged him. And then when, he was starting to get over, I called him on the phone, when he retired, and I called him on the phone and I said, you know what? I've got great respect and admiration for you. You're like a father for me. Thank you for everything you ever did for me. And I just wanted him to know that because that's the kind of guy that he was.
Wow. How do you think? What do you think of this year's race and how it turned out with the Dodgers beating the Giants as they did?
Well, again, it was as expected, on both sides, and I was sitting with some friends and family watching the last game. And in about the third inning, I said, guys, I want you to understand something. This is how baseball works. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I've been in the game long enough to know. You know who's going to be the hero in this game tonight? And they're like, who? I'm saying it's going to be Bellinger. You know why? Because he's had such a bad year. This will erase all that stuff. If he can get up, I wouldn't be surprised if he hit a home run to win the ball game or something like that.
Wow.
And so as it started to go down, they were laughing, and quite frankly, that's how it worked. I think it was anticlimactic. I think that the umpires should not be able to decide in a manner like that. Hopefully there could have been a review or something that they can maybe change it. But again, right there, I know he reacted. He thought he had swung. Obviously, you can see the video that he didn't. But again, I think right there, even as an umpire, you might even have to hesitate for a moment because of the big moment that it is before you make that snap, that snap judgment.
Yeah.
I think that's what he just reacted instead of pausing for him.
Yeah, I think he got caught away with the emotion of the moment, for sure.
Exactly.
For sure.
You're not allowed to review balls and strikes, right? That's
No,
No, not balls
No.
and strike, but I think
or
maybe,
check swings.
I think maybe they'll put a check swing review in the rules this year. So, and if that situation occurs again, you can check, you can call and check.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that, Frank. That'd be a good thought.
We'll have to ask our mutual friend Joe West his take on it for sure.
wow, that was interesting.
Joe West would have said, you know what? Whatever he says is right. We're a team and we all stick together.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah. I
exact-
imagine, yeah.
He would have said that for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
So, what about the Braves Dodger series?
Well, again.
Now I realize we're 4 games into it, but still.
Well, and again, you sit back and you look at what's going on. It's going to be a battle to the end. If I'm being honest, I got to think, the Dodgers are hungry. And when you have Scherzer, okay, and Trey Turner come over in a trade like that, you have got the ever-ready bunny in Scherzer. I managed him in Double-A. I know what kind of guy he is. And he is going to bring energy to that team until the very last out, along with Pujols. Okay? I mean, those guys, and it's all about the chemistry and how everybody works together, and they couldn't be in a better place than that. And then you add, Mookie Betts and the rest of them. I mean, they are loaded to the hill. But then you've got the hunger of the Braves on the other side. They haven't won since '91. Snitker knows what he's doing. You've got the leader, with the big first baseman, and I'm telling you what, he's going to lead those guys. And again, you wish they were at full capacity with Acuna being in the lineup, but he's not. But you know what? They're biting at the bit to win in advance. And so I think it's going to be a great series.
Great. Let's go back. Let's go back to your first hit. Who was it against, and when was it?
August 20th, 1981.
Wow.
Dan Bortano. It was a double down the right field line late in the game. I think I was able to steal a bag, score a run, we won the game, and it was just a memorable moment for me. Yeah.
So you mentioned stealing a bag. You stole 590 bases in your career, and that was the first.
Now I got to correct you, Frank. 558's the number. I was always accused of, you always know what your stats are and all that. I'm like, well, you know what? If I do my job, then I'm going to help the club. But
Okay.
558.
I gave you a few more than you had, but maybe that's counting. Maybe I just made a mistake. So that was the first one. Do you think the stolen base is a lost art today?
I think it has. I think it's diminished quite a bit. Those guys that can run still run, but I think a lot of them probably don't have the green light. I ran it when I wanted to. And when I got thrown out once or twice too many times, that's when they shut me down and said, you just wait, and I'll let you know.
Did you run whenever you wanted to with every team you played with, Brett?
Every team I played,
Wow.
unless but my stolen base percentage was low. I was in the low 70s, which isn't very good. So there was a lot of times, like when I was in San Francisco, I had Robbie Thompson hit behind me. If I could steal the pitcher, I'd say, hey, Robbie, give me a pitch or two to steal. And if I couldn't, then I'd say, hey, let's hit and run second pitch. Roger Craig never knew any of that. We did that on our own. And I think they don't do that as much today.
Well, Rod always said Rod hit second a lot of Rod Carew hit second a lot of times in his career, and he said if let's say Gary Pettis got on first, I would give him one strike to steal a base, and after that I was free to swing away. That's
right.
Just an indication that Rod only needed 2 strikes, only needed 1 pitch.
Wow.
He could give one away. But
Well,
you're
that was
the
right.
same way.
Well, and that's how it was, but I don't think it's like that today. But even more so, you can talk about the stolen base, but I tell you what, it drives me absolutely nuts watching these kids not bunt.
Well, that goes back to Bellinger. again, Bellinger's the classic example to me of a guy who went 2 for 52 at one point in the season, toward the end of the season, and he didn't lay it. He didn't, and they were shifted. Everybody was on the other side of the field. He could have bunted down the third baseline and got doubles if his ego would have allowed him, because he could have broke the streak bunting. And I don't ever saw him lay down a bunt, because I remember Mickey Mantle was a great drag bunter. Steve Garvey laid down a bunt, was a great bunter, and all of these guys' egos getting away. What's your take on that?
Well, let's take the check on ego, because ego, in my opinion, is a negative thing. They are either unwilling, and that might be the ego part of it, or they can't. And the reason why is because nobody's explaining it, the value of that. You talked about Mickey Mantle. I had lunch with Mickey. There are times I go to New York and have lunch with Mickey. He talked more about his bunting, how that he would get 10 or 15 bunt hits a year, doubles down the third base line because they shifted them. And he goes, that helped to me, so that then when they straightened up, then I was able to hit the ball, through the infield. For me with the bunting, and quite frankly, I was over at the San Diego minor league complex just a couple of days ago with a couple of their prospects, explaining to them the value of bunting. These were first-round guys. I think that one of them's name's C.J. Abram, and we were on the field. I'm like, "Do they play you back?" "Well, yeah, I'm gonna jack the ball." I'm like, "All right," but they knew I was a bunter. They played me in, and I knew if I could put the ball where I wanted to, they wouldn't be able to get me. It didn't matter where they played, but they anticipated me. I'm trying to teach you this so you can put that in your arsenal, so that when you struggle, you'll be able to lay down a bunt. Like you said, Frank, Garvey bunted. I played with the MVP and Dale Murphy. Dale Murphy bunted when he struggled. Everybody's going to struggle. This will just keep you out of that prolonged slump. And if they would just learn it, so they don't have to bunt all the time, learn it so that when they struggle, they can lay down a bunt, or when the big shift comes, they lay down that bunt, then that'll straighten them back up again, and then they'll be able to hit through, the infield. But they're either unwilling or they're incapable, and nobody's making them do it.
Well, along with what you said, I think baseball considers you and Rod Carew the two greatest bunters of all time. Rod told me that at one time in his career, he didn't lay down a bunt for 3 years. And I asked him why. He said, because the third baseman was in so close to guard against the bunt, it was easier for me to hit it past him.
And that's exactly true. You know the way I played. I hit the ball up the middle the other way. And so to me, it was great, because if they played me way in, I would just look for the ball middle away and just try to flip the ball by him.
Right.
I can remember going into St. Louis and playing them and Quisenberry pitching, and Quisenberry coming in was wonderful because he had that little underarm, and if they played me way in, that sinkage that he had, I could bounce the ball over the third baseman's head, and that was like taking candy from a baby. And so I understand what Ron's talking about there.
Yeah. Also, our friend Johnny Bunch was exercised one year because he tried to break up a no-hitter in the ninth inning by laying down a bunt. And he said, it's not my job to be to go against the. I'm sorry. Let me say it again. He said, it's not my job to be no-hitted. It's my job to break up the no-hitter. And if I got to lay down a bunt with 2 strikes in the ninth inning to break up a no-hitter, so be it. I'll break up the no-hitter.
Anybody that thinks other than that, okay, is not thinking about himself and his team. He's thinking about the other guy and not wanting to hurt his feelings. Oh, that's what's going on right now in everything in life. Forget about somebody's feelings. That's the bad guy. That's the opposition. That's the enemy. And I don't know how many times I lay down a bunt to break up a no-hitter and get yelled and screamed at. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That's my job.
Let me ask you an uninformed layman's question, both of you. we're talking about egos getting in the way of bunting, and maybe it's a lost order. If a manager tells you to bunt, don't you bunt? Isn't it his call?
Well, it is. But then if you don't know how to bunt, or you haven't practiced the bunt, then you're going to give it 3 half efforts, and you're going to go walk away. And then a manager, then he'll say he won't put the bunt on again. So you're going to purposely make it out. A lot of them might do that.
Really?
Oh, I would think so. I'm going to tell you something. When I broke in the game, and again, we can go on forever. When I broke in the game, when I struck out, and I walked back to the bench, I got aired out by everybody. You got legs, hit the ball on the ground, put the ball in play. If you don't do that, you don't help my team. Now, you got these guys striking out, walking back to the dugout, and they're slapping them high five.
Yeah, you sound exactly like Rod. Rod said the longest walk for me in baseball was the walk from the batter's box to home plate if I struck out.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I don't understand that today.
And also, Rod explained the bunt to me in the simplest of terms. He said, when you're bunting for a base hit, your first step is toward the pitcher. Number one, your back foot goes over the top, and then your barrel of your bat has to be above your handle. And that's it. If you have the barrel of your bat above the handle, you can lay down a bunt.
Well, I can tell you this. I was in Atlanta 81, 82, 83. When I got traded to Cleveland, like I told you, my 2 favorite players growing up were Willie Mays, because the way he played center field. I just thought he was the greatest player of all time. In the National League, obviously Mick in the American, and we can argue that. But then, because I couldn't hit any home runs, then it was Pete. Pete Rose was mine. So when I first got into the National League, when I first got there, our first trip into Philadelphia, I went in and watched them hit BP. And I remember Larry Bow looking at me and going, "Oh man, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm watching my idol." And he's like, "Oh, me?" And I'm like, "No, Larry, not you." It was Pete, and so Pete would come over, and I would just pick his brain about, leading off, and what did you do, and he gave me some great tips, like you want to work the count 5 to 7 pitches the first at bat. The more you do that, the more pitches the pitcher will throw, and you'll be able to get in the bullpen, earlier, later in the game, get the starter out of there. I always remember that. When I went to Cleveland, I remember running across the field in Anaheim trying to run down Rod because I wanted his mindset about how he wanted the ball. And the best advice Rod ever gave me, and after the first time I ever talked to him, stuck with me all those years, he said this to me. All the things you said, friend, but what stuck with me was see the ball on the ground before you leave the box. If you see the ball on the ground, you won't pull out and you'll lay down a good bunt. And that stuck with me my whole career.
Wow, that's a piece of advice.
It
Huh?
is.
Let me ask you, you could hit the ball for power when you were in college or when you're in the minors, but did you give up on that deliberately to become the leadoff player, the leadoff hitter that you were? I mean, you worked deliberately on getting on base, bunting and walks and single hitter. Did you give up on power and just say, I'm going to sacrifice that and become the leadoff hitter you became?
Well, yeah, I mean, if I can walk you through it a little bit. When I was a freshman in college, I worked on Arizona State. And I was so successful there. I played on the junior varsity. But I was so successful there that when I got to the big leagues, they said, well, where did you play? I said, Arizona State. And then I went to Southeastern Oklahoma because I didn't have a scholarship. Jim Brock said, he's lying. He never played at my school. That's how much I impressed him. But in his defense, in 1975, 76, that first year, if I'm not mistaken, out of the 25 guys on the roster that played at Arizona State, I think 22 or 23 of them played in the big leagues. And they lost to Arizona that year. And, I mean, it was amazing. So I don't hold that against him. He just had some great players. So I transferred to a small school in Oklahoma, Southeastern, and I hit 31 home runs in 3 years at Southeastern. I mean, it was 35-32 thumper. I was down on the end, and I just tried to drive the ball, run it a little bit. But when I got the rookie ball with the Atlanta Braves, I had a manager who said to me, Pedro Gonzalez was his name. He says, man, you run like the wind. If you can make the the shortstop take 2 steps to his right, you'll be safe. And he goes, let me ask you a question. I'm like, all right. He goes, if you get 216 with 10 or 15 home runs and you drive in 50 or 60 runs, that's a dime a dozen. But if you can score 100 runs and have a 400 odd base percentage, and you can steal 25 to 50 bases, and you can hit 300, you will be in the big leagues for a long, long time. I took that to heart. I completely changed my swing, and from the day I got to the big leagues to the day I retired, there was only one time I ever tried to hit a home run, and that was my last at-bat in Colorado. I got on the plate, tried to hit a home run, hit a line drive to Larry Walker, and I can tell you, I honestly, in the 17 years I played in the major leagues, I never once tried to hit the ball in the air. I tried to hit line drives and ground balls my whole career. That's the way I tried to go about it.
And you probably tried to use the alley between left field and center field for all your hits, right?
Well, I did that until I saw them starting to play me that way. Then I would purposely get on the plate so they throw the ball inside, and then I would cheat knowing they were going to throw it inside and try to hit the triple down the line, the first base line. That's why at times I had to leave in triples because I was able to go all the way.
Did you ever try a straight steal of home plate?
I tried that. I tried that once. I was on third base. I was in Atlanta. Bobby Cox was the manager. Dale Murphy was up. He was struggling. And so I thought, all right, I'm going to try to pump the club up. I tried to steal. I got thrown out. And he said to me, Bobby Cox said, you ever do that again, I'll send you back to the minor leagues.
Wow.
Whoa.
The only other time I tried it, I think I was with the Giants. Charlie Lee Grant was playing. Might have been with Cleveland because Charlie was with Kansas City. And he had that slow move. And there was a guy on first and I was on third. And he had that slow move. Okay. And so I thought, all right, if he gives me that slow move again, like he's going to hold the guy at first base, I'm stealing home. So I didn't steal it once against Charlie Lee Grant. Twice. That's the only time I ever did it.
Wow. I know that you've answered this question 100 times, but the answers are not what you think you are going to get me. So I'll ask you, who is the toughest pitcher you ever faced?
Well, by far, the one that stands out the most is John Candelaria.
Yeah, see, that's why I asked this question, because it's unusual not to get an answer like John Candelaria, because not someone you would think about.
Yeah, that's an odd answer.
But why don't you expand on it now?
Oh, okay. I can tell you I probably was 0 for 12. Let me go back and look at the numbers. But I was probably 0 for 12 with about 8 punch-outs. And the story behind that is that, I mean, think about it. Now, I had an open stance. John was 6'6", 245, and he dropped down to the side. He was one of the only guys I was kind of a little fearful of, if I'm being honest. And the first time I faced him, I remember he was a little bit wild, and he threw the ball inside, and I got out of the way and hit me in the helmet. Scared me to death. And I looked at him, and he spit at me. like get the hell out of the way. I'm like, oh my gosh. Now, I also back then, I looked at all the stats. I watched everything. I made sure I was ready for the game, and I knew that John didn't have a very good move. So, my second pitch, he guys holds me on second pitch. I steal second base, and I spit at him. 2 pitches later, I steal third base, and I spit at him again.
That's great.
My next at bat, I get up, and now I'm not so open.
Or cocky.
Well, I'm still, but I'm not as open, okay?
Yeah.
Tell me, Brett, did you ever have a pitcher that you thought you owned, that you just knew in your head you owned them? Like there was no way.
Oh, yeah, there's a couple of those I could talk about. But so in this one, what ended up happening was my My next time I got up, I closed off my stance, and the first pitch I moved out of the way. Oh my gosh, there was a curveball away. Wasn't even close. I thought he was going to hit me. Second pitch, he hits me right in the ribs. I go to first base, and he spits at me again.
Oh, man.
Years later, John comes and plays with us in Los Angeles. And the first day of spring training, I walk up to him and I'm like, hey, here's a cup of coffee, brother. I appreciate, you being on my team. He goes, what the heck do you want from me? I said, John, you're my teammate now. And he goes, next time, bring me cream and sugar. And that's how it started.
That's great.
I'm so sorry. I interrupted your punchline there with the story. I interrupted to ask you what pitches did you felt like you owned. And when that's in your head, when you're on deck circle or something, you just know you're going to get a hit. Is that it? I mean, do you feel?
Well, those that you feel very comfortable, with. And I think I go back to Quisenberry. I own Quisenberry. I owned it. And I remember one time, and he knew I owned it. And the only reason I knew that is the third game of the series, we're done. We got to catch the elevator, up to the bus. And I remember the elevator opens. I get in, and Quisenberry's in the back of the elevator. And he looks up and he goes, I dream about you.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, what? He goes, listen, I'm tired. I'm just telling you this from now on. I'm going to throw the first pitch right down the middle. Hit the ball to left field and get on base. I can't get you out. Either you run it down the third baseline, you're bouncing over the third baseman's head, or I throw you 10 or 15 pitches. I don't want to do that anymore. I'm just going to throw you the first pitch, hit it to left field, and get on base. That's what Quisenberry said to me.
Wow.
What a compliment.
Was that because you saw the ball so well? Because he had a very, very odd delivery. I think that delivery, an underhand delivery, was probably the key to most of his success. But did you pick it up right out of his hand directly?
Well, he threw me a lot of sinkers. His curveball or slider, he didn't throw a lot for strikes. So anytime he spun the ball up there, I took it. I went in for a sinker and then just tried to hit it. So that's why I was successful. And picking it up, well, if you were just to kind of visualize a little bit, when you look at a pitcher on the mound, okay, and the conventional was, you probably look at their face and then you shift to where the ball is, okay, so you go from there and you just go then horizontal so that you're able to pick it up where the box is. When somebody with Quisenberry, I looked at his belly button.
Right.
And then I would shift down and try to get them the horizontal look about where he was going to release the ball. And that's why it was easy for me to pick it up there.
Wow. That's great.
That's amazing, right?
Could you read the spin, or did you look for a hand position? And because a lot of people say they can read spin. Rod said he could read the spin, almost always almost as soon as it left the pitcher's hand. But other people have to focus on position, whether it's a curveball, fastball, slider, etc. Which kind of hitter were you?
No. I was able to pick up spin out of the pitcher's hand. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret. A lot of people didn't know that. I didn't like hitting a breaking ball. I didn't like hitting a hook. I didn't like hitting a changeup. I looked fastball every pitch, either middle in or middle away. If they threw me a hard slider or a hard cutter, that was like a fastball. But if they threw me 3 hooks, I took the first 2, I choked up and tried to hit the third one up the middle. I never tried to hit a breaking ball, ever.
Wow. A whole career, and a great career, and you never tried to hit a breaking ball. That's amazing.
No, not unless I had to. But you got to know what kind of hitter you are. You know what? There are, okay, and I'll just give you a little education here, which you probably already know, but there are fastball hitters. There are breaking ball hitters. There are location guess hitters, okay? There are location hitters. There are guess hitters. And then there are guys that can't hit. So there's only 4 kinds. So you got fastball, breaking ball, location, and guess. And I'll give you a couple ideas. Chipper Jones, okay, was a location. Left-handed, he liked to hit the ball down and in. Right-handed, he liked to hit the ball up and away, and he could hit all of the pitches anytime that was thrown. Okay? You look at somebody who was like a breaking ball hitter, Vinny Castillo, Colorado. Why would you try to trick him and throw him the slider? Because you could throw a fastball by him, but they always threw him sliders and changeups, and he was, one of those sliders and, a breaking ball. And then you had the guys, most any big leaguer can hit a fastball. If it's straight, most any big leaguer can hit a fastball. But then when you face somebody like Maddox, who dipped and doodled and added and subtracted and in and out, up and down, he was the toughest one, other than Candelaria for me to hit.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's amazing, is right. Didn't Rod tell
Munson?
No, Rod was talking about I just had a senior moment. The guy who played Babe Ruth for you, the producer.
Oh, Stephen Lang.
Stephen Lang. Didn't Rod tell Stephen when he was getting cocky, let me introduce you to Mr. Curveball?
Yeah, Mr.
It's
Curveball.
time to introduce you to Mr. Curveball.
Yeah.
So, that is, I guess for a layman, just a whole new world.
Well, Brett, let me ask you now, how can it makes me crazy having known Rod as well as I do when a hitter gets fooled on a 2-0 pitch. Aren't you supposed to pick location and just lay off it pitch if it's not strictly in that location?
Okay, you ready, Frank?
Yep.
He doesn't know what kind of hitter he is.
Oh, you mean
Wow.
the hitters? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's bailing and wailing. Look at him now. Remember what I said earlier?
Yep.
All right. Remember what Pedro Gonzalez said to me? Well, are you going to hit 260, 265, have 10 or 15 home runs, and drive in 60 or 70? Look across baseball now. That's what they have.
Yeah.
Yep. And
nobody understands what their role is. Nobody. You look at a leadoff guy. You find a legitimate leadoff guy now that gets on base and tries to set the table. I mean, to me, I love Mookie Betts. I like the way he goes about, his business. But he's a lot better player than I ever will be because he's got the pop and he knows how to drive the ball. But he understands and knows the game. Okay, a guy in the 2-hole. How about now? And again, just I can get off on my bandwagon, but let me manage a team right now in regular season, and let me be the home team manager. Okay, and we're going to start with a guy in second base. I'm going to tell you this: I'll win 8 out of 10 games because the guy that's going to come up at the top of the first is going to be the guy that I've taught how to bunt, so we can move the guy to third base and then a fly ball. Okay, we're out of the game. We won the ball game.
You're
They
right.
don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was listening to Bob Gibson talk to Rod Carew one day in Lexington, as a matter of fact, at Dougie and Johnny's golf, Doug Flynn and Johnny Bench's golf tournament where Brett and I met. And they were talking about never before have they seen so many 0-2 counts become 3-2 counts. Why is that?
Well, again, because again, when you have a pitcher that has a plan when he gets out there, and some of them do, but then it goes back to execution. You got to be able to execute, and throw strikes inside, outside. You have to establish the inside part of the plate, so you have the whole plate. But then, when you have a pitcher who pitches inside and hits somebody, they get suspended for 2 or 3 games because they supposedly did it. Back in the day, you hit somebody, and that's fine. That's part of the game, so that they're not, diving into the plate to be able to lift and separate and swing out their tail. Okay, then the other guy on the other team gets hit. Now we're back to square one.
Yep.
They don't let that happen anymore.
Yep.
Jeez, it's incredible. It really is incredible. You've had a lot of adversity in your life, Brett. I wish you'd maybe touch on the cancer and of course the terrific comeback from it. But I read that you think that they might have diagnosed that because of secondhand smoke. Do you think that that's possible?
Well, Bill, they use that, and that's fine. But I did for a couple of years when I was a Brave, and I put on a clinic one time, And this little 10-year-old boy walked up to me and he goes, I did because you do. And it crushed me. So I thought in my mind, okay, I won't let him see me, but hey, I'll make you a promise. If you promise me you won't dip anymore, you'll never see me dip on TV again. That was in 1983. That night I went home and I said, I'm not going to do it ever again. Because I wanted to be a positive example for the kids that watch me play.
And by dipping, of course, you mean chewing tobacco.
Chewing tobacco, yeah. And I quit that day. 15 years later is when I got throat cancer. Could it have been a contributing factor? Maybe. I don't know. Things happen for a reason. Sometimes we don't understand. We take it as it comes and we deal with it accordingly. And, that's what I did.
Did you start dipping at Southeastern Oklahoma?
Actually, I started dipping at Arizona State. I remember.
So you were 18.
I'm 18 years old. I'm on the junior varsity, and Cleet Boyer is my manager. And he goes, "Hey, big boy, if you're going to play in the big leagues, you got to learn how to dip." And he threw me a package of Levi Garrett chewing tobacco, and he said, "Take this and put it in your mouth." And I did. And as I was trying to figure out how I was going to keep from throwing up, he spit on my spikes with all that chew, and he goes, "Hey, welcome to the team."
Wow.
Wow.
That's how it started.
Brett, the reason I ask you so much about the cancer, not just the fact that you came back from it, but I was a fireman in New York, and at 9/11, we've had so many guys after 9/11 come down with so many different kinds of cancer. And yours was almost on your tonsils. Was that correct? I've never really heard of that before. Right?
That was in my tonsil. It was encapsulated in my tonsil. So what they did is I went back. I don't know if you remember the story, but May 2nd, or I should say, right around May, right at the beginning of May, Tommy calls me in the office and he goes, "Hey, big boy, I'm giving you a couple of days off." I was struggling, and it was like, "Hey, old man, you can't play anymore." I'm like, "Skip, I've got this thing in my tonsil. I want to go home and get it out, and I'll be back in 5 weeks." And when I went in, they cut it out, and they told me I had cancer. So they not only took out the tonsil, but then they did a total neck dissection. They cut me from the top of the ear all the way down and across the front of my throat. They took out 50 lymph nodes. I went through 32 rounds of radiation, and they told me I'll never play baseball again. And I said to the doctor, I'm like, what do you mean I'll never play again? Well, give me a number. Is it 1 in 100? 1 in 1,000? He said, "No, Brett, it's probably 1 in 5,000 that you would ever play." And I said, "Well, me, Doc, I'm a born-again Christian, and it was 1 in 10,000 that I'd ever get to the big leagues. So I've already cut that in half. If the Lord wants me to play again, I'll walk back on the field this year." And I think it was September 6th or September 10th. I walked back onto the field with a standing ovation in Dodger Stadium, 50,000 people, to attribute to my God that allowed me the ability to come back and play again.
And I was one of those people that saw the game. It was very moving. And you wrote a book about it, didn't you?
Yeah, it was called Field of Hope. It was very emotional. I was locked in when I played, and I remember getting in the box, and I was so overwhelmed. I stepped out. I got back in the box, and I started crying. Frank, I hit the first pitch. I never hit the first pitch. I'm taking pitches, and I swung at the first pitch, grounded out to second base, and ran off the field. I just was overwhelmed with emotion.
Yeah, it must have been a very, very moving situation for sure.
Something I'll never forget ever in my life.
And then our mutual friend and your general manager at the time, Fred Clare, developed almost the same kind of cancer, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
The same kind of cancer. And to finish that story, when I was sick and I was there, okay, Fred and his wife Cheryl, they flew and spent a couple of days with me. That's the kind of person he was.
Yeah, they're a great couple. Fred belongs to a golf club nearby in Glendale, California. I see Fred a lot of times and talk to him very often.
Well, they're special people as well as Neil Marlins. When I was sick, Peter told me, "You can take my private plane and go anywhere you want." That was the family that I miss in baseball. I had it in San Francisco with Al Rosen and Bob Larry and all. They were wonderful guys, and I loved them. and I had the same feeling in Los Angeles. So that's why when I watch the Dodgers and Giants play, it's mixed emotion. And, like I said, I've got two guys that I manage with Scherzer and Pollock, on the Dodger side of it. And then I had, I had the stroke on the field because of the scar tissue that happened back in '07 when I was managing in Double-A, and my Gloria was at third base on their Double-A club. And he's like, "Hey, are you okay?" So, I pull for him too because he's a special guy also.
Do you feel the stroke that you had hurt your chances to manage in the major leagues?
I was told that. When I retired in '97, I was out 5 years, and I remember one morning at breakfast, my wife Evelyn said, "Honey, you have my permission." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "You get back into managing if you want." I'm like, "Well, you don't know what you're saying." Because if I'm going to manage, my goal, just like I was as a player, to be the best leadoff guy I can be in baseball, I'm going to manage in the big leagues. So I remember calling Fred Wilpon because during the strike in '94, '95, Fred kind of broke ranks a little bit. He offered me a contract. I went to New York, was there for 5 months before they traded me back to the Dodgers. And I said, "Fred, I'd like to manage your working ball club." And he said, "All right." So I managed the working ball club. And then that next year, Bob Melvin allowed me the privilege of being his first base coach. And then I wanted to manage. So I went to the minor leagues. They were making changes at the big league level. I went to the minor leagues. Derek Call was the president there. He was our PR director with the Dodgers. Derek and I got a great relationship. I said I want to stay in the organization. So I managed an A-ball in Lancaster, had Mark Reynolds, and I had Upton, and I managed in Double-A, and and Upton and Reynolds, and had Scherzer there. And then that's when I had the stroke. So then they thought that affected my health. So I was a roaming outfield base running guy in '08, and then we moved the AAA club from Tucson to Reno, and they built a brand new team there. And AJ Hitch was our minor league director. I said, "AJ, my health is fine. Let me do that. It's a brand new organization up there. And he gave me the privilege of managing there for 5 years. And we won in 2012. And then I was a third base coach in Miami, 14 and 15. And I had one interview with Charrington of Boston right before, over the phone, right before they gave that job to Valentine.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And other than that, nobody has ever called me in to give me an opportunity to manage a ball club. And for whatever reason why, couldn't have been my health, I'm probably thinking that was it, because I was all primed and ready to play, just never had the opportunity.
Well,
I was ready for that.
George Lopez told me that when he was having his kidney transplant, I said, "Why didn't you tell anybody?" I mean, I knew because I was like the general manager. I was like the general manager of the George Lopez show. And he said, because, the dented tomato can in the supermarket, why everybody passes it by, I didn't want anybody to think about me as a dented tomato can. And that's obviously what happened to you.
Yeah, I think that was the case. I mean, sure, I would have loved the challenge, just like any other challenge I've had in my life. You'll never make it. You're too little. You'll never play pro ball. You'll never start in college. You didn't start in high school. Okay, now you got cancer. You'll never come back. I just hoped that at one point I would get that opportunity. But again, it wasn't in the cards. And you know what? My life is good, and I'm having a wonderful time with my wife, my grandchildren, and we've got a great life.
Well, you got a
Great.
remarkable story, Brett. Remarkable.
Wrapping this up, Derek, do you have any questions you want to ask Brett?
Yeah, I do. Brett, couple questions. First
Are
one,
they hard ones?
yes, they're going to be very hard, so get ready. You mentioned that Rod had given you some tips, and I'm always curious. I'm sure this happens, but I want to know if there's some sort of tips that are shared between players, between teams. So I know maybe on the team that you're playing on, but did you guys and back in the day you played against an opposing team? Did you guys sort of have conversations not just at the game, but maybe at a bar or restaurants?
Well, that's a little taboo.
Okay.
And I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm not even doesn't fit me anymore. I love people, and I love helping people. And so somebody that was a leadoff guy like me, if they wanted information from me, you know what? Maybe my teammate, they would never know about it, and I would never do it during the year.
Okay.
That would always be in the winter. But I can remember, talking to one player all the time. I mean, I remember talking to Dykstra, even though Dykstra didn't want to buy it, and all that. I used to, have some conversation with Kenny Lofton, a little bit. But if they wanted some information, I do that now. I haven't really been involved in baseball in 4 or 5 years since I've been out. I got called just a little while ago from the San Diego Padres. So I went over to the minor league complex a couple of days ago, helped a couple of minor leaguers. Now I'm going over to the Texas Rangers complex next Tuesday to help a couple of guys.
Nice.
To me, I just love helping people. But then, never during the season. And the things about it is you pick up different things on people. I played for the Giants, and when I was on that team, we had guys on that team that knew everything about everybody on the other team. I could not bunt on Matt Williams. I could not bunt on him. He had something on me that he picked up that he would not tell me. He goes, I'll tell you, you're not going to bunt me. I'll tell you when you retire. And I'm like, come on, Manny. And we were friends, and he wouldn't tell me. And what it was is when I got ready to swing, I would swing, and I would swing, okay, and then I would hit. But when I bunted, I would swing, and I'd go a little quicker with my second one, and he picked that up. That's why, and every time I'd score, I'd go,
Wow.
he knew I was bunting. So you pick up stuff.
I hate to play poker with that guy, boy. He can really pick it up, huh?
Right, and you don't divulge that information during the
Wow.
Interesting. Okay, so another question I have. You mentioned, and this is along the same lines, but you mentioned possibly being a manager or manager's responsibility in helping players earlier. There's a player, and this is probably a very wrong player to pick, but there's a player, his name is Puig, that used to play for the Dodgers.
Uh-huh.
How could you help him if you were to? I don't think he actually plays in the majors anymore, but how could you help him now?
He's playing in Mexico.
If I'm managing him, the way I help him is I show him how much I care about him. Because when he knows how much I care about him and his family and stuff off the field, he'll listen to me on the field.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the way it's all about relationship.
Yep.
Every single player that I was involved with in the minor leagues, I knew something about him. I had one kid, I can't remember, who was a pitcher, and he was struggling. He was a reliever, and he was struggling. And I always had my guys on the team, okay? That was kind of my pulse. Hey, if something's going on with somebody on the team, I want to know about it. Not baseball-wise. So I can come alongside. And so this guy was struggling, and I found out that his wife's best friend had just died.
Yeah.
Some kind of, a tragic whatever. So I called him in and I sat him down. And he put his head down because I'm going to get on him about his pitching. And I looked at him and I said, hey, how's your wife doing? And he goes, huh? I said, how's your wife doing? I know that she just lost her best friend. And I know you've been thinking about her. And that must have been really hard on you and on her right now. He opened up completely. I put him in the game that day and it went away. When they know you care, they'll listen to you.
Right.
That's great. Great.
And then one more. I know you guys want to keep get rolling. Who's guest hitting right now in the league?
Who's guessing? Probably all of those that are hitting 250 and under. No, you got guys out there that they've got a plan. You can see what they have going up there. They've got an understanding of what's going on. Even Bellinger made the comment the other day. You know what? I was right on them. I just missed it. I just missed that. But if you look at them, all of the players have or should try to make an adjustment with 2 strikes, and very few of them do that.
Well, shouldn't they also just look fastball and adjust to the off speed?
Well, again, it depends on what kind of hitter they are. Fastball hitter, breaking ball, location, or just whatever that is, you stick with your plan. You don't vary that. That's when you get confused, and that's when you're uncertain, and you can't put a good swing on the ball.
Billy?
Well, Brett, I tell you, thanks for coming on the show. It's been a real pleasure. But I tell you, besides being a successful leadoff hitter, a successful baseball player, with your attitude towards life and the way you treat people, I have a feeling you would have been successful just about anything you did, pal. So it was a real pleasure to meet you, and a real pleasure for you coming on. And thank you. It was an honor, really.
Well, thanks, boy. I appreciate that. But again, when you sit back and you have to think about life and think about, we're born and we're going to die. What are you doing with that dash in between your life? For me, I want to be a positive example, not a negative. And I think we got a lot of negative examples in this world. And I just wish that people would take a little bit of inventory and say, how can I be a positive example today, and go out and do it? I think we'd be a lot better off that way.
That's great. Hey, Brett, before we go, I just want to ask, your first name is Brett Butler. Did that cause you any problems when you worked in Atlanta?
Well, I can tell you this. I didn't get to pick my walk-up song. We never had that back there. But every time I walked up to the plate in Fulton County Stadium, they played that theme song from Gone with the Wind. And I heard it every single time. Oh, my gosh. And every time I saw Ted Turner, he'd say, "Hey, Brett, where's Scarlett?"
He must have been a character to play for.
He was.
Great. Thank you so much for being a part of the show, Brett.
Fellas, thanks a lot.
Just
Anytime.
We had a blast, and be well, and say hello to Evelyn for me and your 2 daughters.
All right. Well, we got 3 girls and a son.
Oh, wow.
Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate that, you guys. Anytime. I enjoyed it. And take care of yourself. God
Great.
bless.
Thanks so
Thanks
much.
a lot, Brett. Appreciate it,
Bye.
brother.
Bye.
Great guest.
Was a good guess, wasn't he?
Oh man, he told me things about baseball I had no idea. I mean, I just, you watch it. You watch a different game than I do. He's watching a different game entirely.
That I do.
Yeah, exactly. He's watching a totally different game. It's like when you walk into a set. I'm sure. I would see a set and I don't see near what you're looking at.
I would see a whole different show.
Yes, it's all perspective. I walk into a room, I'm looking at exits and smoke detectors, and you're not even thinking about that. You're looking at something totally different,
Correct.
because it's our background. But he gave a clinic on baseball today. I mean, any young person that wanted to play baseball should watch the show and take his advice.
I think he gave a clinic on life.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. And again, it's so much bigger than baseball.
Yeah.
Like you said about the dash, between the years.
So before we go, if these lips could talk, Lamar's Campbell,
Combustible. And they all got great reviews. Check out our website. Read the reviews on the back of the books.
Yeah, I mean they're good reviews from really, really
people that would know.
People that would know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't like 2 mooks wrote a book. Well,
yeah, if you want to know about baseball, you don't come to Billy O'Connor. You go to Brett Butler.
Yeah.
If you want to know about writing,
you don't go to Frank and Billy, but you get a pretty
good idea for the people.
I disagree. Get some writing advice from you fellas, for sure.
From the reviews that we got, from the people that we got them from.
We got a Pulitzer Prize winner. We got an Emmy Award winner. We got 2 Emmy Award winners.
We got Johnny Clamps.
We got a Super Bowl winner. So we all. And before we go again, thank you to weekendcoffee.com. Fresh roasted coffee straight to your door. And they'll donate a bag for every 10 sold to first responders.
First responder and veterans. And look forward to our veterans show as well, which is coming up.
Yep. And next week we'll have Tony O on. So
yeah, Tony O. That's going to be a great show. And he's our only second guest, 2-time guest. Because
he is a second guest because he's a worthwhile second guest because you can only talk about so much stuff about Sinatra and Rickles and Tony O's career. So with that, signing off.
Take it easy. Thanks very much for looking in, folks. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Next week's guest, Frank Sinatra confidant, Tony Opedisano. A look back at his 30-year friendship with the chairman of the board.
We'll see you next week.